Hi, everybody, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of our Back to Life podcast, Finding Fulfillment After 50. My name is Danny Bader, your host, and I'm delighted to be here today with our guest, John Ondrasik. Now, I met John a number of years ago when we were both giving keynotes at a leadership conference for Marriott and Ritz-Carlton down in Sarasota. I gave a talk, and then they had this big surprise planned, and everybody had to leave the room, 400 people, and then come back in, and it was John. Now, John is better known as the singer-songwriter, Five for Fighting. He's had Grammy-nominated songs. His songs have been featured in over 350 films and TV shows and advertisements. And he came on to close out the show with a blend of a keynote and a concert, and I got to sit in the front row. And I'm telling you what, he is a phenomenal musician, and he's even a more phenomenal man, human being. So you'll want to listen now as he talks about coming out of the most challenging 16 months that he's had. He's going to talk to you about the importance of your family and your support network and asking for help when you need it. John's going to share with us an experience he had with some panic attacks and how he moved through them. He said he gained a lot of perspective this year, and it was the toughest year of his life. You see, not only is he a Grammy-nominated musician, but his family has a company in downtown Los Angeles called Precision Wire that makes shopping carts for Costco and other places. And his dad's 82 years old and couldn't run it this year because of COVID. The business has been in the family since the 1940s, so John stepped in there and ran the business. And man, he's really going to give you some insight into some of the leadership principles that he had to apply there. He's 56 years old, John, and 56 years young, and he's through this now, and his wife and his two children and the business and his family and everybody's doing great. And he's going to talk to you a little bit towards the end about what's next for him in his musical career and his collaboration out there with some Hollywood people in film and TV. So listen, don't touch that dial. Hang around and listen to my man, John Ondrasik, Five for Fighting. Okay, hi everybody, and welcome again to another episode of our Back to Life podcast. You heard in our introduction about my guest today, John Ondrasik, who is better known as the singer-songwriter of Five for Fighting. John, so thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Danny. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. You know, it was I mentioned in the opening, it was certainly a gift when we were in Sarasota a few years ago, and I got to do a talk, and they had this big surprise happening towards the end of the conference. And lo and behold, I found out it was going to be you. And then they escorted me to the front row. And I'm like, man, how good does this get? A memorable experience. So what are you up to now, man? How's life? What are you doing?
You know, probably like everybody, it's the sun's shining a bit. It was certainly a challenging last 16 months, but coming out of it and, you know, being able to hug mom and go to dinner and granted, you know, February 2020, we're doing again. And so it's, I'm optimistic. I'm tired. I'm sure we're all tired. We're still recovering.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all have our stories and our challenges over the last, you know, through the pandemic, but it's just great to do those little things and, you know, have a Memorial Day where you can have your mom there and as I said, it's really put things in perspective, I think, for a lot of us.
Yeah. What was your biggest challenge over these 16 months, professionally or with Carla and the kids?
Well, you know, you might remember when I did my little talk, I have another hat besides the music. We have a family business.
Yeah.
It's been our family since the 40s. It's a manufacturing business called Precision Wire. And my dad's been running it for 40 years. And we make things like shopping carts. And if you shop at Costco, you know that we make the best shopping cart in the world.
There you go.
But of course, there's a lot of challenges running a business in California, but then throw the pandemic on top of that. And my dad was 82. So now he's 83. So he basically had a quarantine for a year. So I basically had to take over the business and navigate us through not just the economic challenges of the pandemic, but being in downtown LA, we were ground zero for COVID. So we had many COVID cases. And so trying to keep our people as healthy as possible and their families and those that did get sick, getting them through it. So it was exhausting and probably the the toughest year of my life. You know, I've gone through some challenges like we all have, but it certainly asked of me things that I'd never have to do before. And luckily I had some support through it, but it was hard. I'll be honest with you. It was very challenging. And I had to take some steps for my own health that I'd never taken before.
Yeah.
But we got through it, you know, and now my dad's back at work and things are, you know, turning around and I think we've seen the worst of it, but yeah, it was a year like no other.
Yeah. That's wild. Let's dig in there a little bit. When you stepped in then as leadership role, and, you know, most people listening, that's a big transition, right? From being out singer-songwriter and performing, and now you're leading a manufacturing company in downtown LA. What were some of the leadership principles that you called on for yourself to support your people in getting through it?
You know, that's a good question. You know, I've been coming back. I mean, I've worked at Precision Wire throughout my whole career in various roles. You know, obviously, you know, at kind of the height of my music thing, I was more of just an advisor. But in the last few years, I'd been coming back. So I'd had some experience kind of getting into the flow. But when you're the boss and you're the leader and people are looking towards you, it's a different dynamic than being, you know, the son of the boss.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I found, you know, I think I just tried to be honest and I didn't try to be something I wasn't. Great. And I put a group of people around me that I trusted. We kind of had this COVID group that we sat with every day. We went through all the health issues, the safety issues. So I really surrounded myself with good people. You know, I also, we had to make some really hard decisions. You know, one thing about, you know, when it's a matter of survival, there may be some decisions that you've been putting off. And, you know, maybe some business moves, but with the pandemic, with the health problems, the economic problems, you know, our sales dropped and all of the stuff that was going on, you had to make some really hard calls. Yeah. And so you had to kind of have a spine and you had to have some really hard conversations with people. But I think you just had to be honest and here's the position we're in, here's what we have to do. And then you do it. And, so, and I'm not great at that. I don't like having hard conversations. I don't like confrontation, but you know, when
I'm with you on that, brother.
Right. It's not in my skill set, but it really wasn't even about my dad's legacy or our family's, you know, kind of legacy. It was the 300 families that were working here. And many of them I grew up, you know, working with as a kid and they've been here for 30, 40, 50 years. And, you know, this job is crucial for their kind of existence. So it was a lot of pressure, you know, not as, you know, for me at least. I mean, certainly other people went through challenges much harder, but it was great. And I had a great team and we all kind of got through it together and we all made sacrifices. And at the end of the day, too, I learned, here's another thing that was really important. I was really trying to do everything and hoping for the perfect result. And I learned that all you can do is wake up, do your best that day. And nothing, you can't, you know, you can't stop a person from getting COVID if they're outside doing the wrong things. And initially I was trying to make everything perfect and stop every problem and keep everybody healthy. And at the end of the day, I'm like, there's some things that are out of my control. And I can't obsess on those because that'll like my personal stress and my personal well-being will get to a point where I'll have a breakdown and I won't be able to help anybody. So after a couple months, I'm like, you got to start taking care of yourself or you won't be here for these folks. And then the whole thing will go underwater. So but that was a process. It took like a few months for me to kind of learn to kind of how to manage that and how to manage my own health. Because if I wasn't in good shape, and I wasn't coming in every day with energy and positivity, much harder for them to continue doing what they do. So it was a process, and I you know, I'm sure I failed many times, but I did the best I can, and we got through it. And you know, at least we're still operating, and we're still working, and still making shopping carts.
Numbers are coming back up now.
What's that? Oh yeah,
the numbers
things are coming back. I mean it's probably the most uncertain time economically in my lifetime with we have labor shortages, we have tariffs, we have the world economy, inflation's around the corner.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, I've learned that, you do what you can, you do your best, you don't let it consume you. And hopefully things will work out. And I got a lot of help now too. I got some people here. I hired some folks because I want to do music too. And I'm finally starting.
Oh, you got to do music, brother.
Yeah. I had my first gig last week, first live gig.
Where'd you play?
I played down at in San Diego for a group, and
great.
They had their masks off, and it was their first time out in 13 months, and first time I played live for anybody, and it was a religious experience for all of us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that, something bigger than us before we finish today, because I know you and I share that connection. What did you, through that leadership thing, and then what would you say? And I certainly acknowledge you for stepping in and doing that for your family and for those people. What was the one big thing that you learned about yourself?
It's funny. You might remember in my talk, I talk about my song Superman.
Yeah.
And I tell a funny story about how, when my record started to take off, the record company said, it's really weird. Old people are buying your record.
Right.
And what they meant was people in their 30s and 40s buying my record. And they're like, why are old people, basically adults, buying your record?
Right.
And I say in my keynote, I'm like, I kind of figured it out that, in my song Superman, Superman doesn't want to be Superman. He doesn't want to be everything for everybody, because if you're everything for everybody, sometimes there's not enough left for yourself.
Wow.
And I would always say that. And I think it's a good message.
It's a great message, John.
Take that to heart. But for the first time, I lived it.
Yeah.
I lived it, because there was a point, kind of especially a month or two in, when we were really in the heart of the pandemic, and there were a lot of people were sick, and that I was at the point where I'm trying to take care of everyone else, and I'm not taking care of myself. I'm sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night. I'm having panic attacks.
Oh.
I'm like, my health, I've lost 10 pounds. I'm like, if this continues, you're not going to help anybody.
Yeah.
So I really, for the first time in my life, I had to take a proactive step and change some things I've been doing, just so I'd get through it. I went to my doctor. She gave me some advice. She gave me some medication. I'd never been a medication guy. I'm like, hey, I got to do it. So I took some steps that I'd never done before, to get myself to a place where I could do my job and I could help other people. And so it's kind of like, walk the walk, like, listen to what you won't say. And so the first time I kind of was listening to some of my own advice, and I had to take it because I was in trouble. So that was the thing I learned the most about, you do have to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a bad analogy, but they always say on the airplane, when the air masks come down, put yours on first, then put one on your kid.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't putting mine on.
Yeah, no, we've certainly heard many speakers say that over the years from stages. But I think your message in Superman, and you think about the lyrics, right? It's not easy to be me.
Yeah.
I can imagine for you and for many of us, this past year, it was not easy to be me. I know my wife, she's a nurse at University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
So she's down there in the front lines. I'm a guy who like you, I get on an airplane, I stay in a hotel and I speak to rooms, or, you sing to live people. Well, that's all shut down.
Right.
So I certainly, like you, I had some, it's probably the closest I ever came to panic attacks, but for me, it was more of a depression.
Yeah.
Like, my wife would leave at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and I would usually get up and get coffee and get a workout. And man, I would go back to bed sometimes at like 9:30, just feeling like victim,
Yeah.
Like I was the only one that this was unfair to. And it again, like you, I got some great support people in my life. You and you sent a great message to my brother-in-law, Bobby, with ALS when we were out there, and his wife, my sister, Trish, is my best friend. So I think the message is coming out of what you're talking about, man. It's so important to have those key people in your life.
Yes.
Right. Have that support network. And then, like you said, be vulnerable. Just raise your hand and say, hey, I feel like shit.
Yes.
And I need a little help here.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It's funny. I talked to a lot of my musician friends. Obviously, many of them, the performers struggled because there was no work. But the writers, you would think like the writers would be like, oh, I have a year off. I can go write a zillion songs, write my record, write my opus.
Yeah.
But there was this depression that we all were feeling just
Sure.
because of the nature of what was happening around us. And it was very hard to find the energy to create.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what you said was very common. And I still
Mm-hmm.
think coming out of that now, there's people even struggling coming out of it because you've been in it so long. So I'm with you. For me, I'd go up and bang on my piano, not because I wanted to write a song or write a hit, but because I had to get it out. Just like it was like for the first time since I was 17 years old, I was using my piano as a kind of a cathartic, stress relief therapy, which was very interesting. And I still want to go back and listen to those work tapes to see if there's any songs in there.
That's what I was wondering. Do you feel like there's any songs that have come out of this for you?
Maybe I'm interested to go back because I was certainly writing under a different dynamic, one that, again, I hadn't written under since I was, a struggling songwriter and just miserable and angry at the world.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I always would say I couldn't write Superman now because I've learned that it's easy to be me. But through this year, again, it's all relative. But for me, I was kind of feeling that kind of, it does, it sucks. It's really hard. Okay. And, my wife was there. She was great. My parents were great, but I was still kind of on my own. My son was really helpful because he came down to the business. I think that was cool.
Was he home? He went Auburn. Is he still Auburn?
Yeah, he's back here at school. He's going to school. He's working for the family business full time. So he wanted to do that. So he's back here and then he's going to school out here at Moore Park. And
yeah. It was good to have him then, right?
Yeah. So having him come in and kind of him watching me go through this too, I think was really, really good. Really, learning that dad is, vulnerable too. And we got to support each other to see dad is human and, the cracks. There was a lot of, with all the kind of misery and depression and all the bad stuff that happened, there were some silver linings too that came out of this that I think, because it kind of showed us parts of ourselves that we never knew were there. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that kind of crisis does. It kind of forces you to show parts of yourself that were never there. And also, sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes, and you just need some help and someone else to do it with you. So,
right.
I think we're all in this together.
Right. Yeah, no, we certainly are. And the young people I know, our daughter is 20. I think she's about Olivia's age. She's a sophomore at Penn and a runner. And, so these kids train so much and, they're not running any races. And it was tough to kind of keep them, you're not even coaching them about athletics anymore. Right. You're coaching them more about life. So, I mean, I'm 57. What are you, 50? How old?
56. Yeah, I'm right with you.
56. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I never had any challenges like this growing up. I mean, I missed all the wars, right? Because I was in that age. And I'm like, man, these kids now, they've really had an opportunity to build some resilience, and to build some of these skills. I think the one thing that you talked about too, and you didn't necessarily mention it this way, but this is how I've kind of framed it. And I think you're spot on, is just to surrender sometimes, right?
Yes.
Just to absolutely surrender, not out of weakness, but more out of like wisdom, to say, I can't put my energy fighting this anymore. And my older brother, Eddie was a drummer for many years, real good drummer. And he tells a story about when he was in Costa Rica and he was surfing with my cousin. Eddie was body surfing. And he got pulled out by a riptide down there in the Pacific. Costa Rica is pretty powerful. And he was fighting a little bit. And then he had that moment to say, wait a minute, I know better than this, because he's been in the ocean a lot. And he just got on his back and floated and said, let me go until it releases me. And then I can put my energy towards creating what I want. I think that's cool.
I think you're right. I mean, it takes actually a strength and a maturity to realize that about yourself. It's easy to give other people that advice. Yeah. But to say, I need help, or I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to go to therapy, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to take a pill, or whatever it is, that can be really hard, especially I think for men and our egos, and, we can handle it.
Oh, sure. We're not supposed to be weak, right? I mean, that's an age-old stereotype. Yeah, we're not supposed to. And I think you hit it, that there is, it's not a weakness. It's a strength.
It is.
To say I need some help. I mean, the whole Stoic philosophers, right? Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, they said, man, if you've never experienced misfortune, I feel sorry for you, because you don't know how great you could be,
No, you're right. And again, like, you're right. I think for our kids, in a way, it's really healthy because a lot of them aren't really growing up in the real world.
Yeah.
And even though this is not challenges like an Augie Nieto faces or your,
Bobby,
ALS,
yeah.
Bobby, it's, having to do something hard, having to do tap in your dorm room, like my daughter, having to communicate online, having to change your whole, having to be alone, having not to be able to see your friends. It forces certain skills that they never would have had to kind of investigate or deploy or learn.
Yeah.
So, it'll be very interesting over the next few years because I think certain things won't change. And some of the lessons we learned, the good ones about really appreciate the little things. I think we will have a different appreciation for what matters after this pandemic, especially for those, who unfortunately lost loved ones or people got really sick or still have health issues. But yeah, man, who could have imagined? It's
don't let the dumb shit matter, right? DLDSM. I think you got a song in there based on your last couple of sentences, man. I think when you sit down, something's in there.
I hope so.
Trust, brother. Don't hope. Trust, right?
Yeah.
Much more powerful. So what do you do? What are you doing to take care of yourself now? When you've learned out of this to say, hey, I'm here and I got to be of support to a lot of people. And I need to take care of John a little bit. So what, Rich, do you have any morning rituals now or anything that you're doing?
Well, a lot of the stuff, we all talk about. I think doing something physically active is huge. Really what kept me sane is swimming through the pandemic. I was in a swim class and I found cool. And just doing something aerobic or getting your heart rate up, just exercise, just to relieve that body stress and that mental stress for an hour. I think that's crucial. So that's the body side. And then, if people can meditate, whether it's prayer, meditation, I think that also is very helpful. Even socializing when, one thing I think I got depressed like you was I wasn't seeing anybody, right? Because we couldn't. I could see people at work, but I had no social experience beyond my family because nobody was hanging out. And after a while, I'm like, let's just do some like Zoom calls, like just how you doing?
Oh, yeah.
And I think just that interaction with people just was important. And then as I said, sometimes you need medical help. I was having some anxiety and panic attacks. So my doctor gave me some really low doses of some anti-anxiety medicine.
Great.
And I'll tell you, I think it was the key to me getting through it.
Good.
Because everything kind of went from a 10 to an 8.
Right.
And it's not like it changed my reaction. I just, as you said, I just wouldn't spend the time obsessing or going manic over things I really had no control over. So it kind of put a little clarifier on it. And I don't, I'm now to a point where I don't need it anymore. But during that time, I did. So, and I'd never done that before. So I think all those different things. And then, of course, having, being around people you love as much as you can. And, having a puppy on your lap, whatever it takes.
that unconditional love. Do you do any silence, be still? You remember when I talked about be still, prayer, meditation?
I actually started after like talking to you. I was doing my daughter does a lot of that. So she'll send me meditations and, I think you're right. I should do more. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, I try to be still in the morning before I open my, computer. I try to do a few minutes of just kind of sitting and meditation or just clearing my mind. But no, I think all that is crucial. Especially when you're in times of trauma and hopefully those habits will just continue through, as we come out of this and get our lives back together.
Yeah, I think so. I saw one place, John, a statistic that I think it was US adults that meditation increased by 2,900%. Now, I don't know if they were tracking that probably by app downloads or I don't know, but I can believe it. There's a great story about Gandhi when he was touring the U.S. He had a very, very busy calendar, and his group of people that were with him, they were reviewing all his visits for the day and his appointments and everything. And they said, we're really busy. And he looked and he said, yes, I will not be able to meditate for 1 hour. And they were all looking around going like, what are you talking about? And he winked and he said, I must meditate for 2. So it was the more the proverbial shit's hitting the fan, right? The more Danny got to step back and just settle in a little bit. Yeah, that's cool. So what's headed out in the future now? I mean, it's great that you're through, the company's through, right? Everybody's going to be okay. You're probably bringing some people back, I guess.
Yeah, we were essential, so we never shut down. So we've been able to keep everybody working, which has been great.
Good.
As I said, I played my first gig last week. We're booking tours for the fall. It'll be amazing. So we'll be out on the road a lot. And I'm trying to structure it here so I can kind of spend half my time at Precision and half the time writing, because I think it's really important for me to write, because that's what I do. You know, that's my thing. You know, that's my passion.
You're doing very well, my friend.
Well, thank you. But I think it's just important for writers to write and speakers to speak and performers to perform, and it's just good for your soul and well-being. So I'm on my way to that. I have, I got a bunch of titles for songs, and I'm doing some co-writing, and I have a few production things up in the air that now that Hollywood's back, that we might start doing some productions on television.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Who's the person you worked with, you collaborated with, that you were just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool working with this person? Because you went to UCLA, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And majored in math?
Yeah, many brain cells ago.
Right. And then, so you look, I mean, when you were at UCLA, did you ever think, that you would have these songs that were #1 and Grammy nominated and everything else? No. Was that part of your vision or goals, or?
Well, of course, everybody wants to be a rock star. I mean, sure. But I also wanted the degree. When the whole thing fell apart, I could get a job, Right. Math was the thing that I could do. But at the same time, in my dorm at UCLA, I had my reel-to-reel tape machine, and I'd be writing and recording. But I knew that the odds of that were few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
So
then why'd you pursue it?
Well, it was my passion, and I was just going to go. I was going to do it till I couldn't do it anymore. I was just going to do it till life told me, you got to pay the rent. You got to, you're married. You got to pay the mortgage.
Yep.
And luckily with Precision Wire, it kind of allowed me to keep going a little longer, because I could kind of work on my own hours, and I could do things kind of from the road. Yeah. And I just, the stars aligned at the last minute. So I got very lucky. But, if you're talking about a collaboration I've had some great collaborations. One that comes to mind is a guy named Steven Schwartz. Steven is one of the premier musical writers on Broadway history. He had more performances on Broadway than anybody. He wrote Godspell, Wicked.
I love Wicked.
Yeah.
That song, Because I Knew You. Oh my God, it's killer.
Yeah. He wrote Pippin. So he's like this icon in that world. And I had his songbook, Godspell, as a kid, and I would play his songs. And just so happened years ago, he asked me he wrote this movie called Enchanted. You probably remember the Enchanted movie.
Sure.
And he asked me to sing a song, but I couldn't do it. I was doing something else. But I said to him, I go, you're amazing. I love you. Would you ever want to have coffee? And turns out he knew my songs, and we got together and wrote some songs, and we've done some projects. And he's not only become a friend and a mentor, but just it's kind of like playing one-on-one with Michael Jordan. You're like, you watch this guy in the room, and you're like, oh, I see how great he is and why he's great. Right. And the best lesson from him, though, was his humility. The guy, as I said, he's had more Broadway shows than anyone, and he should have this massive ego, and he's confident. Sure. But in the room, in a creative environment, he's so giving and collaborative and open and understanding. And that's such an important thing when you're collaborating. You don't want to have to feel like, I can't say this because maybe it's stupid or cheesy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You have to have a really trusting environment.
Yeah.
And that was just wonderful. So we wrote a song called Slice, which is the title track of the Slice record.
Yep.
We wrote a song called Above the Timberline, and I've actually covered some of his songs. So, it's great to meet people that you admire who are actually not only good at what they do, but just good people.
Sure.
And, that's
exactly how I'm with you right here. When I met you, I was like, holy shit, I love this guy. And you were so humble, and Johnny was there with you, and I'm like, this is great. And then, I get the podcast going here. I'm like, John, I should ask him. And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Right on, man.
So you have that trait yourself, my friend. Just honor that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, what's next music now? You got some tours. You're going to work with him probably. Is there anybody else on your radar that you go, man, I'd love to work with them?
I've worked with some really cool people, some country artists, pop artists. A lot of the people I like to meet really are not even in the music field.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very interesting thinkers out there. Some people I respect, writers, that sometimes I reach out to just kind of get their take on creativity and the world that's going on. It's such a crazy world right now.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm thinking of some projects where I may kind of collaborate with some of the folks that inspire me. But there's still people like Augie that are doing their thing, and change the world every day. We're coming up on, baseball's Lou Gehrig Day, like this. There's just incredible things by incredible people, and that's been the blessing of my career. Is through music I've met people like that, and they continue to inspire me. And as long as I can work with them in some capacity, I think I'll be very grateful.
Yeah. Now, how important is that, John? I know you do a lot of charity work, philanthropy work. Who you're working with? I know ALS is a big initiative. Any other organizations?
Yeah, I do a lot with Gary Sinise and his foundation, the Gary Sinise Foundation, which is now kind of becoming one of the premier charities for our troops. They build houses specifically for severely wounded soldiers. And, Gary's like our Bob Hope. He does it a lot under the radar, but he has his Lieutenant Dan band, and he's a great bass player. And so I've kind of moved all my kind of troop-related work under his umbrella.
Partnered with him,
It's so great. So there's that, and there's certainly music therapy is important to me. We've talked about struggles and mental challenges and stress. I've seen music therapy really grow as a tool, especially for children, that I think is really important. So that one's also close to home. But yeah, and now that things are opening up, it'll be nice to get back and start doing some more of those things. And build those.
Yeah. How important is it for you to be of service to people like that?
I think if you're lucky enough to have a platform and you have something that moves people emotionally, whether you're an athlete or an actor or a songwriter, and you can use those kind of emotions and I hate the word celebrity, but to pursue and help in organizations that are doing good work. I can't think of a better way to kind of use that. And music is so kind of emotional, and certainly songs like Superman in 100 Years and The Riddle. They really fit.
What If? I love that. What If?
Yeah, What If? They really fit kind of some of these organizations. So yeah, it's a total blessing. It's like, just to be able to make a living as a songwriter is a dream come true, but to be able to kind of give back and let your music be used in ways that can help the world. I have a song called What Kind of World Do You Want, right? It's about making a difference. So we all do it in our own way.
Yeah, I think that's so appropriate right now. And, 100 years too. I mean, when you look at it, I think a lot of people, when it first came out, I was like, all right, this will be 2 weeks and I'll be on the road again. And then it went into 2 months and 4 months and, people getting sick and people dying. And I think it really called into question our mortality for a lot of people. I think, which as you and I said, trust that it spills into their daily interactions. And they understand that there is a lot of dumb shit in life that you don't want to get all worked up about, and love your people and love them fiercely, right? Every day.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that life can be short. That's really what 100 years is. It's certainly, we're not all going to live to 100. Very few of us are. And the song is like, hey, not every moment's great. Sometimes they're terrible, but it's all we have. And I do think this pandemic may have people thinking more about, wow, if I really want to make a change in my life, I really want to do something, I can't be waiting, because around the corner, in the last few years in my neck of the woods, we've had some horrible shootings, we've had the fires, then we've had the pandemic. And it's like, if you want to do something, you want to change your life, there's no time like now, because tomorrow may not be here.
Yeah.
So, and that's applied to me too. I've had some thoughts too about what do I really want to do? How, what do I want to do with the next time I have? And I've, I'm thinking about it more now than I think I ever have. And I think that's certainly because of the last year and what we've gone through.
Right. Right. When I talk to people, you're 56, I'm 57, and, we're moving into that second half. I guess we're into, I'm probably not going to make 114. So I'm probably past halftime now. Right, John? But,
pretty damn good for 57, brother.
Oh, you too, brother. You too. But I think it is that key message that don't wait, for people. It is, you really got to kind of take a look around and figure out what you mentioned, your passion, right? That's why you kept jamming on music. Yeah. And I think, and you probably have seen it too. And there's so many people that are just going through the motions of life. Yeah. And they're good people and they're living, but I say, man, there's a hell of a difference between that and being fully alive, And
it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. So change is hard. Yeah. We see it so many times, people are in situations that you look at, how could you stay in that? And change is hard. It's scary because it's something we don't know. Yeah. But no, I think you're right. It's and again, I think it's one of these silver linings that's come out of this is like, you know what? I'm going to do this. We did things at Precision Wire that we should have done years ago. We probably never would have done, but we're doing it. And life's better now for it. And I think that applied to our personal lives. I've done that in my personal life. And I hope people take that to heart. And it doesn't have to be okay. It can be great. Right. But we have to make that choice.
That is. So how do you handle like risk and fear and uncertainty and all that? I know, Richard Branson, right? Didn't Virgin pick up What If and use it as a theme song for something? So, I mean, there's a guy that I think when risk, uncertainty, and fear is around, he's happy because he knows there's huge opportunity on the other. How do you handle that in life when there's that risk, fear, uncertainty?
Well, on the music side, I think if you don't have some of that, you're probably not doing much. Mm-hmm. If I have no fear or risk or then I know I'm not really kind of pushing myself. If I'm too safe, at least I'm being safe or I'm following a trend. Yeah. And I've never had success doing that. Yeah. So, and if I walk out on a stage and I have zero fear or butterflies, something's wrong. So, you don't want to be consumed by that stuff where you can't perform or it affects what you're doing. But you're a guy who performs all the time. You need that edge. Sure. You need the confidence, you need the ego, but you also need that kind of nervous energy to keep it fresh, or it just becomes like a script and you're kind of doing the same thing every night. So, I again, it's a tightrope. And if you're not failing, you're certainly not going to probably achieve very much. Like if every song I write, I'm like, oh, that's the best song I ever wrote. Right, I'm going to suck. You have to understand that if you don't, whether it's in business, or even in personal life, if you're not failing part of the time, you're not going to achieve much. So I love failure. To me is incredibly valuable. I've learned way more from my failures than from my successes. Yeah. And I'm finding that in Hollywood too. I've got a bunch of projects. None of them have really gone all the way, but some have gotten close. And each time one doesn't go, I learn something. Sure. I never regret any of those because I'm enjoying it too. And if you're doing what you enjoy and you fail and it doesn't work out like, that goes all the way, to me, the folks that go all the way and they're like, wow, it's not what I thought it would be. It was really the ride that I loved. Yeah, so, exactly. Right. There's all of that too. Yeah. That is so true sometimes. Well, I guess, as I think back, when we're 50s and that, a lot of times the midlife crisis thing shows up. Yeah. And I'm thinking COVID was mine. How about you? Yeah, well, I went through that 6 or 7 years ago. I had my midlife crisis. I was right in 100 years. I was right about 45. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think we all have that, and we can't do as much as we used to. We can't run as fast. I think it's pretty normal. I mean, COVID to me was a different kind of crisis because that was basically a crisis we kind of shared with the world. It wasn't just a personal one. And I think it was such an umbrella of fear and unknown and depression. And it was like a worldwide kind of blanket over everybody.
Oh, sure. And then throw in the election year on top of this
The
crazy
election
thing.
year, all the stress, all the,
Oh, man.
yeah, there were just so many things to be sad about
Yeah.
throughout the year. But again, it's, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's what my dad always says.
Yeah.
And I am really excited about the next, couple years coming out of it, and that energy. And but yeah, I had my midlife crisis and made it through. Maybe that's helped me get through this one. And now you're done with yours. All right. So now
Yeah, I think I'm done too.
you're off into the vamp,
Yeah,
so
maybe I had one. I'll have to do a little reflection here on a run and see if I had one a couple of years ago. I'm not quite sure. That's crazy. But listen, lots of possibility for us in our 50s. I saw you posting and I responded about Phil Lefty winning the PGA, man. How good was that?
Indy 500, Tom Brady, Phil.
Yeah.
I actually played dodgeball with Phil Mickelson once.
Oh, God.
Dude, it's the most competitive guy. He was picking off 8-year-olds like nothing. He was just, he's that guy, watching him. He's so competitive. No, there's nothing we can't do. Again, my dad's 83. He's on the elliptical 2 hours a day. He's running this company. I think with healthcare, and if we take care of ourselves, who knows, what's going to be going on 10, 20, 30 years. So we still have, I think, as much in front of us as we do behind us, but we got to take it.
We do for sure. So listen, as we wrap up, I certainly appreciate and acknowledge what you did with your dad's company and with the family company, and even moving through and sharing some of your vulnerability. I'm sure the audience and listeners will really appreciate it. And some of the nuggets of wisdom that you gave in there, the principles that have been around a long time that we're reminded of from time to time. So if you have a really, really great next 5 years, what should we be looking for?
Hopefully there'll be more music. Hopefully Precision Wire will be continuing to do well, and my son, and there'll be a nice kind of management team doing most of what I'm doing now. So that can just continue in the future.
Good.
And I'll still be, working with Gary and Augie, and trying to help those who are really doing amazing things.
Yeah.
That would be a blessing. But you know what? I'm going to make tomorrow a great day, and we'll go from there.
That's it, man. That's it. Tomorrow starts today. So what 2 or 3 things as people, we get into our 50s and our 60s, what's really important? 2 or 3 things that you would say to them right now? Listen, just pay attention to these 2 or 3 things as life progresses.
Yeah, I think find things you're passionate about and do them. So many people of our age have worked really hard to have the opportunity to do certain things, whether it's financially or time-wise. So we've worked so hard, but I think a lot of us too have this kind of innate work. We've done it this way forever. We don't know how to get out of it. This is all we know how to do. But it's a shame to just to put all that in and not take advantage of it, and take that trip around the world, or go do something on that bucket list, and start doing those things, and really find friends, and start enjoying the fruits of life that maybe you weren't able to do when you were younger, just because you had to work or you had kids. As I said, I have a lot of friends in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they're having the best time of their lives.
Right.
They are this is the golden age of their life, and they're loving it. And also, I would say, if you can, and you enjoy what you're doing, work. Yeah. My dad, the reason he's so vital is that he's still working. Yeah. Doing what he likes to do. He comes to work every day. He has obligations. So, I know a lot of folks have retired, and then a year into it, they're like, now what do I do? So I think working is great, and also take care of yourself, work out, try to eat well, mentally, spiritual stuff. Because as I said, I think with healthcare, and if we take care of ourselves now, we may have much longer lives than we think we might. And try to enjoy every day, and enjoy your kids, and enjoy your grandchildren, and enjoy what life has given you. Yeah, I think you're right on that, John. All right, last question. You just mentioned spiritual. How's that fit into all of this for you? What's your take on that? Yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't say I'm a devoutly religious person. I'm also not an atheist. It's interesting. I always have terms like God and religious symbolism come into my songs. Angels, yeah, I dig it. Gods and angels, if God made you.
Yeah.
My sister's a minister. But I also have a great fondness for kind of the Eastern religions, Buddhism, meditation, those more as a practice instead of a religion, a life philosophy. So I kind of take bits and pieces from all of those and try to incorporate them into my life for my best well-being. You know, I go to Buddha class whenever I can and do lunchtime meditation. I read a lot of the philosophers. And for me, I kind of just takes what works for me. But I think you said it right. If you just have some silence with yourself, able to calm your mind, able to understand that it's pretty much all in your mind, whatever happens in life, it's how you handle it. It's not what happens, it's how you handle it. That will determine your happiness. And however your God or God may factor into that, if it works for you, great. And for me, you know, it's always an effort, and it's always a constant struggle to improve in that area. But my wife's great at it. My daughter's great at it. And they kind of refocus me at times. And hopefully now that the pandemic's over, I can find a little more time to get into that, because there's probably nothing more important, if you want to be honest.
I think I always say it's often in the absence of sound that you hear the most. About life, about music, creativity, self. That's where spirit lives. I just saw the other day somebody said, you're not so much a body with a soul, but rather a soul who now has a body for a little while. And I thought, man, I like that one. And again, no religious parameters around it. Just, you know, for me, that felt good.
Me too.
Yeah, it felt good. All right, brother. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate it. Where can folks go and kind of keep an eye on you, what you're up to? I got to check the tour date, because if you come to Philly, I got to make that happen.
Yeah, fiveforfighting.com. We'll be announcing the new tour probably next week or so. So everything's there. And then Facebook, Five for Fighting. And you can, at the website, you can always email John. It comes right to me.
Okay.
And I look forward to seeing you back on the road, man.
Yeah, me too. Well, listen, like you said to Mr. Schwartz there, when you met him and you were blown away, and you told him and you said, hey, man, I love you. I'm glad we're hanging out. I'm saying that to you, brother. I'm glad our paths crossed. I love you. I think you're a wonderful man. And I look forward to our paths crossing again, and certainly appreciate your time here with our audience, John.
Right back at you. You're awesome. And I look forward to seeing you out on the road. And please give my best to your family and Bobby.
Likewise, I sure will. All right, take care, brother.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Hey, everybody. Well, I am sure you enjoyed that conversation with John Ondrasik and Five for Fighting. What a wonderful person. What I really took away from talking with John is his quest to live honestly. That really kind of resonated with me, and the question came up, am I really living honestly? And also his importance of taking care of yourself. You know, asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. So when you're out there and you don't feel all that great, look around, get your support, whether it be just your family and friends or even more professional support. You got to take care of yourself so you can show up and be in service to other people. And then I love the quote when John said, crisis shows you parts of yourself that were never there. And I think what he meant, that they're there, crisis just comes in and kind of pulls back the cover, so to speak, so we can see them. And in a lot of cases, we have some work to do to become the best versions of ourselves. So listen, I love that you came along and you listened to the podcast, and I trust that you'll enjoy it. So I ask for you to go ahead and connect with me on social media. Share this with anybody else that you think needs it and may be inspired by it. And certainly check in with us and download the future episodes. We've got Gino Oriama coming up from the University of Connecticut, a women's basketball coach. He's an icon. That will be a great one as well. So until next time, just remember that there is a hell of a difference between just living and going through the emotions of life and actually being fully alive. Wish you all the best. Take care.